So I am going to hold something up for the camera while I talk about our next presenter. So actually our two presenters, what I want to say is they're in completely different industries, but I feel like they both started their companies from their heart. These are very heartfelt companies. And so for Holly Daniels Christensen, the question I have to ask listeners is, have you ever left a piece of your heart somewhere? And I think I asked that earlier, like a beach in Puerto Rico. And Holly, do you want to talk about how you help people recapture that? And I will show what you sent me while you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. This is fabulous. I'm learning so much on this podcast. But I founded Dune Jewelry from my kitchen table because of the realization that people had such sentimental and emotional connections to specific places throughout the world. Um, Over the years, it's more sentimental attachments to experiences and places. So I started making jewelry using sand and natural elements at my kitchen table in 2007. And I was using sand from Cape Cod, where I grew up. And I was handing it out to friends and family, kind of seeing, I need feedback all the time, whether it's from friends and family or customers. So I was handing it out, gifting it. And every time I would see those people, they would be wearing the jewelry and they'd be like, oh, I just got back from Bermuda. I have this little pinch of sand. Can you make something from that? We had the best time. I want to make sure I can remember it. And it just was that moment of like, all right, number one, they really like it. Number two, maybe this can expand from just a hobby to a business. So fast forward 10 years now, I launched Dune in 2010 from my kitchen table, and we have 28 full-time employees, team members who some sit and make jewelry all day long. We have a sand bank manager because now we have over 4,500 sands and natural elements from all over the world sent in, donated by our customers after they had a special experience somewhere. Yeah, I think having a tangible reminder of a precious moment is so important these days, more so even with COVID, but also because everything we do is here. It's all stuck in our phones. Whereas with Dune, it can be right here next to my heart. This is sand from Positano, Italy, where I went on my honeymoon. So we basically create tangible reminders of life's best experiences.
Right. So you gave me a choice of what I wanted, which was really sweet. So you sent me a wine stopper, which I requested.
Which will probably be used a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I requested sand from Puerto Rico. So I love the Caribbean. And of course, we haven't been for a long time because of COVID. And it's absolutely beautiful. And it's so just wonderful and professionally done. And then you gave Richard something too. So do you want to talk about what you asked for?
Yeah, so my daughter and I used to go to the Jersey Shore. I would take a day off when she was younger, and we'd drive down and just play on the beach when there weren't a lot of people there. And so those are very fond memories for me. And so when it came time to pick a gift, I thought, well, maybe I'll get something that'll remind my daughter of the times that we spent together on the shore. So
and you got a cute little dolphin. It's adorable. And it's just right for a girl her age. So these are really, really beautiful pieces, I must say. I really love them. So I thought I saw on your website that you can use materials that people send to you. Is that right?
Yeah. So we actually can use sand. We use flower petals from weddings, funerals. Yes, the question will come up, do we use ashes? I will absolutely use ashes. We've used crushed granite from the Rocky Mountains, golf course trap sand. No one wants to be, right? Yeah. Someone sent in sand from Pebble Beach, which is a very well-known golf course. I'm not a golfer, but the affinity and love that I have for the beach, many people have for golf. So it all kind of makes
all ties
sense.
Together.
Yeah. It does tie together. And speaking of intellectual property, early on, my mentor was very big into teaching me about intellectual property, how important it is. So we do have some design patents, and we also have 2 utility patents and multiple trademarks. But one of the most recent trademarks that we just obtained is experiential jewelry, because every single piece of jewelry that goes out of our studio captures an experience for someone. And it may be an experience that they've already had or an experience that they're manifesting. Like I always wear pieces made with sand from the Greek islands, because someday I will get there. And this is just helping me manifest that trip.
Wow. What a great idea, and what a neat way to approach jewelry, tying beautiful pieces to memorable experiences. That's really a really great comment. Kenya, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering, have you ever, and it's probably really tricky, but have you ever thought of doing anything with water? Is that, because I'm very connected to the water. Like I love the sand, but there's just something about water that, does it for me. So is there anything you've ever thought about doing with water?
We brainstorm about it all the time, and we have not come up with a way with our current process, excuse me, we haven't come up with a way to do that, but it's always on my mind. People have sent us salt from the Dead Sea, which I assume was water and it evaporated and they were left with the salt. But hopefully someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just wanted to know what the creative process is like for you, Holly. How do you kind of get it through to staff, and how do you maintain that vision on a day-to-day basis?
Such an interesting question, because I tend to struggle with that. I mean, I was an artist when I started, and over the years that creativity gets beat out of you a little bit, because you're learning how to read a P&L. And you're learning about your cost of goods and how to do a proper cost analysis and figure out your labor costs, and especially because everything we do is handmade, custom made to order. We don't stock anything. So,
Hard to scale that.
And that was one of the things when I first started. I bootstrapped this whole thing by working in real estate for the first 3 years, because people were like, it's a cute idea, but you're not going to be able to scale it. And I'm a high school dropout. I didn't know. I was like, yeah, I will. I'll scale it. And now understanding that there's some truth in that. We're a multi-million-dollar business. We bring in well over $3 million a year. But as that revenue goes up, the profitability goes down. And then I'm like, oh, that's what they meant about scaling it, right? I'm like, okay, it's only taken me 10 years to really get it. But listen, I learn on the fly, and my creativity comes in waves. I find when I play with my little girls who are 7 and 8, I tend to really get a lot of ideas from them, because they've got that childlike wonder and that fun that has not been taken away from them. That sounds a little dramatic, but it hasn't been beat out of them, just as sometimes it does for adults. So also I do dream ideas a lot. I mean, I come up with ideas every single day. And like you said, Nir, an idea is only as good as it is if you execute it, right? And I tell my team that all the time, because we're just a huge group of artistic people. But it's interesting. I tend to keep a journal by my bed, write down those like half awake, half asleep type of ideas. I jump up and I'll write it down quickly, because they go away by the morning. And that does help me stay in touch with my creativity personally.
That's great. Very interesting. I noticed on your website that you have a lot of different products, and they're all gorgeous, but keeping, being able to make all of those products, each one being different, that can be a challenge to growth.
It's a huge challenge. Listen, I'm learning every day. I tend to say yes to a lot of things that probably, had I maybe had a business degree or had done this previously, I would have said no to. Thank God I have an amazing team who stick by me and keep me moving moving forward and trying to rein me in as I'm saying, yeah, we can do that. It's no problem. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's not going to be profitable.
Yeah,
can't
but you
do
never really know. And so I think every business owner has to do it their own way because you're there seeing what's happening. And it's always great to have advice, but you have your vision and what you want to achieve. And so you just have to go with what you think feel is right and take the calculated
So,
risk.
Andrea, I can see you have something to say.
Well, I have to say, Dune jewelry is absolutely beautiful. It is
Thank you.
beautiful jewelry, and I love the experiential jewelry approach because of the fact that we don't need as much stuff anymore. We're finding that during this time. But if we have something that has meaning to us, and I'm a Jersey Shore person, we love the Jersey Shore. I miss all of my cruises and my Caribbean and all of that, and I look forward to that day. And I know when I've gone on these vacations, I bought those little containers of sand to bring back to people because I felt that it meant something. So as an entrepreneur and as a creative-preneur, I don't know if that's a word. Can we
Trademark that.
Near,
Yeah.
can we use that, Elizabeth and Richard? Could we be a creative-preneur?
Why not? I think you can.
I think that you can, Holly. And so how did you grow to be 28 people? What were some of the business tips you can have for listeners today about taking that chance? Because I find you don't need to do something by a book. So the fact that you didn't do the by the book and you found your way, what are some tips you can offer for others to not necessarily do it by the book and be as successful as Dune Jewelry is?
Yeah, I know this probably sounds a little bit cliche, but I did a lot through gut feeling and emotional intelligence, just understanding that I was at my capacity when we first started, and I needed someone to be able to make the jewelry. And I remember the one moment I was talking to my husband, and he's like hardcore Boston guy, blue collar, works for the railroad, and he was like, and I'm like, I don't know if I can train someone to do this. Like I sit there with a toothpick and I place these grains of sand, and like I see all these there's a little piece of mica, there's some quartz, and he's like, Holly, he's like, it's not brain surgery. You can figure it out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. It's not brain surgery. No. So,
well, that's one way to put it.
but that really put it in perspective for me that, of course, there's far more creative people out there with a better eye than I have, right? Like, but I had a hard time letting go of it because I just like the emotional, and I had an emotional attachment to creating the jewelry, right? Like I loved coming into the studio and doing it every day. So I think that moment I'm like, all right, I've got to give this a try. I'm still working in real estate. I'm doing this on the side. I'm handwriting letters to every single customer, calling if an order went over 100, like, oh my God, thank you. And then it started to roll from there. And my real estate assistant, Dustin, who was with me since he was like 22, thank God for him because he's very tech savvy and things like that. He's like, let's make a website, easy peasy, whips it up. And so I had kind of his tech his tech smarts, and then my gut intuition, and we kind of rolled with it. And I know a lot of people say kind of fake it until you make it. I didn't do that. I really waited until the last moment when I knew I had to make a move, and then I would make the move. I don't know what the technical word is for that. But I couldn't fake it till I made it because I needed to keep a roof over my head. I don't have parents that would have bailed me out of a big mess. It's just me and my husband. So,
well, you did a great job of faking it till you made it, and you have definitely made it now. And I'm really sorry to say that we're out of time for this segment because we could talk about this forever, but it's dunejewelry.com. And I agree with Andrea, like we have so much stuff, but if you have meaningful stuff, that's a lot different. It's not just stuff anymore. So we will be right back after this break. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the Voice of New York.